From protest marches to social media, people have been calling for an end to the genocide in Gaza.
The deliberate denial of medicine, fuel, food and water to the residents of Gaza is tantamount to genocide.
What Hamas wants is genocide.
So, how do you define genocide? And is it even happening? The 1948 Genocide Convention defines genocide as crimes committed with intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnical, racial or religious group. And the important word there is intent, which we'll come back to you later. The convention was instituted after 6 million Jews were killed by the Nazis during the Second World War, with the goal to exterminate them. But it doesn't always have to involve killing. It can also include the following: causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part, imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group, forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. States who have signed up to these conventions have a duty to prevent and punish. Basically, they have to enforce the rules. So far, only 3 cases in history have met the International Court's threshold for genocide, and those conclusions took decades to reach. The Cambodian Khmer Rouge's slaughter of minority Cham people and Vietnamese in the 1970s, the mass killing of Tutsis in Rwanda, and the 1995 Srebrenica massacre of some 8,000 Muslim men and boys in Bosnia. There are cases, however, where acts of violence have not yet met the genocide threshold. That's because the charge of genocide is very serious and often takes years to investigate and gather evidence. In 2010, the International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant for the president of Sudan, Omar al-Bashir, on genocide charges, accusing him of waging a campaign against the citizens of the Sudanese region of Darfur. The Gambia submitted a case to the International Court of Justice, accusing Myanmar of carrying out genocide against the Rohingya people. In 2021, the US, Canada and the Netherlands formally accused China of genocide against the Uyghur people in Xinjiang. And more recently, in 2022, the US President Joe Biden accused Russia of committing genocide in Ukraine.
I call this genocide.
Scholars of genocide say intent is key, and it's also the hardest thing to prove. Craig McIver, an international human rights lawyer who worked with the UN for 30 years, resigned over the UN's handling of the Israel-Hamas war. His resignation letter, where he said, "We are seeing a genocide unfolding before our eyes," went viral.
In this case, the intent by Israeli leaders has been so explicitly stated and publicly stated by the Prime Minister, by the President, by senior cabinet ministers, by military leaders, that is an easy case to make. It's on the public record.
Days later, UN human rights experts warned that the Palestinian people are at grave risk of genocide as the fighting in Gaza escalates. More than 800 legal scholars of international law and genocide signed a public statement arguing that the Israeli military may be committing genocidal acts against the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, as the siege and airstrikes continue to inflict devastation on the territory. The 800-plus scholars point to statements made by Israeli officials that they claim signals intent. Just days after Hamas's surprise 7th of October attack, Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant declared,
אנחנו מטילים מצור מוחלט על העיר עזה. אין חשמל, אין מזון, אין מים, אין דלק. הכל סגור. אנחנו נלחמים בחיות אדם ואנחנו נוהגים בהתאם.
Israeli President Isaac Herzog blamed Palestinian civilians in Gaza as a whole for Hamas's attack.
It's an entire nation out there that is responsible.
When asked to clarify, Herzog later said he's not holding the civilians of Gaza responsible for keeping Hamas in political power. On the 5th of November, Heritage Minister Amichai Eliyahu said one of Israel's options in Gaza is to drop the nuclear bomb.
אם לשיטתך בעזה אין בלתי מעורבים ולא היו צריכים להכניס סיוע הומניטרי, מבחינתך מחר בבוקר הציפייה שלך שהיינו מטילים מה שנקרא איזושהי פצצת אטום על כל עזה, משטחים אותה, מחסלים את כל מי שנמצא בה, ובא לציון גואל?
זה דרך אחת.
Israel insists its intention is to destroy Hamas and not to wipe out the Palestinian people, despite the comments of some individual politicians. International law does not outright ban civilian casualties during war. Israeli officials insist they have tried to limit civilian casualties and are only targeting Hamas. They claim Hamas is using the people of Gaza as human shields.
We are in the heart of the hospital. And this is where they choose to hide everything because they know the IDF won't attack. The Air Force won't attack here. So they use the hospital as human shields.
Under the UN's definition, Hamas could be considered a genocidal organization. In its 1988 founding charter, Hamas states, "There is no solution for the Palestine question except through jihad," and "The day of judgment will not come about until Muslims fight Jews and kill them." In 2017, Hamas revised its charter, in which they claimed to oppose Zionists and not Jews, and that they were resisting the occupation with all means and methods. But one of its leaders has said it has plans for more attacks like the one on the 7th of October.
We can defeat Israel. We can target Israel. I think we target Israel many times. Okay, we can kill. They can come and destroy everything. But in the same time, Israel will never see the stability unless the Palestinians get their stability.
The UN has said there is already clear evidence that war crimes may have been committed by both Hamas and the Israeli military since the 7th of October, and that it's gathering evidence for potential prosecution. But deciding whether these crimes amount to genocide in any official legal sense is likely to take a long time, probably decades.